Hello and welcome everyone. Today it's Susanne and Margaret Dos Santos. Today we are really looking into networking because everybody says network, network, network. That's the thing that gets you jobs, that gets you this, gets you that. Well, is it really as easy as you think? Is it just talking to people, looking at lists? Well, I don't know. And we're going to find out. So today's subject at the Ask Your Mentor is transforming coffee chats an introduction into high impact strategic career partnerships because, why are we actually doing all of this networking? So hello, Margaret. How are you going today?
Hello, Suzanne. I am excited to talk about a topic that is dear to my heart, networking, and also because I've been named the networking queen.
You have.
Yes. So, hello. This is going to be this is going to be very close to my heart and something that I find natural to do.
Yeah, exactly. So for those that have heard that, the networking queen, the reason why Margaret is saying that is because she's very active on LinkedIn. She's very active in the project manager community as well. And a lot of people call her the networking queen. And today you'll find out why that is. So if you're on the line, if you're having a look now at YouTube, please subscribe to the channel as there's lots of really good stuff here to come. Okay, Margaret, let's dive into this. So from aimless pleasantries to a tactical framework for career growth, which is what we love as project managers. We love this sort of frameworks and stuff like this. But the fascinating thing in that first slide, which for those watching we're not showing, but we'll be able to put it on the website, is about aimless pleasantries.
That's right.
That's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you are networking constructively, what would be really good would be that you don't just talk about vague pleasantries, but you actually you have an intent and then you also have a clear ask about what you're going to ask. And you also listen to what your contact or the person that you're networking with is saying as well, because sometimes you can turn the conversation to bringing in the clear ask that you're needing, and it's not necessarily do you have a job or can I work with you, but the problems that you can solve for them, or if they can help you, or if they know someone. Because usually when you ask someone if they can help you, they're not going to usually say no. People are often very happy to help you, especially if you ask for help. So you would ask, for example, do you know someone? I'm currently looking for work and I'm in this space and I've done this, I've done that. And they might say, well, I know someone that's also looking, and that's how I've actually been able to get some of my leads to be able to get into, find out whether there's a job opening or that the potential, jobs that might be going in someone else's network.
So is networking just cold calling, or is it more than that?
I mean, I haven't actually done a lot of cold calling myself, and generally I find if people cold call me, it's actually quite annoying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would find, and I would feel that if I did that to someone, that it would be annoying for them. But doing it subtly, like having a coffee conversation and just saying, how are you going? How's things? What are you up to? And then you could then talk about what you're up to, what you're doing, and what you've, been interested in and things like that. Then that may lead to a conversation where that person may actually give you another contact or know of someone that's actually looking. And that's how I actually did get a role like that, and it did land a role. It took 3 months, but it was someone on my LinkedIn network that saw that I had switched my position to closed and open, currently looking for work.
Right.
And they contacted me and said, oh, I've just noticed you're available looking for work. And I said, yeah, I am. And that's how that conversation started. They said, well, I know someone that's actually looking. And then I
Right.
followed that lead. So sometimes it may not be the actual person that has a role, but it's someone that they know or an organization that they've heard of that might be looking that gives you that lead.
Right. So that's the network, isn't it? Then they're reaching back into their network.
That's
Now,
right.
you're saying here around the passive listening, collective contacts does not equal building relationships. Most people attend events and wait to be found. So we've got to be proactive about this networking by the sounds.
That's right. So, I mean, if you have a wide network, that will, I think, help you later on, because when you switch your current status to currently looking for work, then they will see that, you know, status has changed and that you might be looking for work. But actually having, you know, coffee conversations, going to networking events, and it might be a party, it might be like a Christmas party or end of year party or a
Yeah.
financial year end party. I've been to those, and you're just having conversations, and you might have in the back of your mind that, you know, you're actually not happy with your current job and you're kind of looking. And so you might put the feelers out saying, you know, I'm you know, I want to challenge in my role. I'm finding that I'm, you know, not bored with my job, but I need a
Yeah.
challenge in my current role, and I'm looking for my next step. And so you're not saying, hey, have you got a job? But you're saying that, you know, you're interested in potentially looking for the next step. And so straight away, if you're wanting to do something straight away, the passive listening and just collecting contacts is probably not the way to go. That might be the way to go for long term, but
Right.
not in the short term.
Right. Okay. So so if you move on to the next slide, this one's a really interesting one about the 5 relationship types. Now, I've never heard it talked about like that, Margaret.
Yeah. So, you know, your advocates are usually, and I've got a couple of people that have actually advocated for me where they put in a good word for you, and especially on LinkedIn, there's a way to actually you know, just say that that person has worked with you, and they're putting in, it's almost like a referral.
Yes.
And so I've done that for other people where, you know, I've been happy with their service and help. So I've put in a good word for them. I've put in a referral, and then people have done the same for me. I've also received some, and, you know, if you have them on LinkedIn at the bottom, that's a good way to do it. Or especially previous managers or previous associates or previous people that have more that they've actually worked with you one-on-one or in your team, and that can actually say, I've worked with this person and she's phenomenal, she's fantastic, or things like that. Your next group are your associates, so they're not as close to you as, for example, your advocates. And your associates might be someone that you've worked with, it might be a customer, or it might be someone that's not as worked with you as closely as your advocate, who can actually
Right.
give you a reference, but someone that knows you and, you know, can vouch for you. Your connectors are project managers. They're great connectors because they know a lot of people. That's their job. They're
Yeah.
connecting a lot of different people cross-functionally, and they're, you know, saying, well, hang on, technology, let's talk to marketing and see what they need, for example.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
connectors, and their connectors are actually good people to know because they usually have a sense of the different types of people out there that, you know, are in the
Yes.
workforce. So
And also for project managers, because we're, as you sort of said, across parts of the organisation, and we have usually a senior sponsor or senior stakeholders, if those people are, those project managers are keeping their ear to the ground. I mean, how many times have I heard somebody say, "Oh, look, we need a project manager over. It's not in my project, but it's over in another one. Can I put you in touch with them?" So they are really powerful, actually, connecting person there to be able to keep an eye out on what's going on.
And you know what,
Yeah.
a great connector as well, and I've just thought of it just as you were talking, are the executive assistants for the
Right.
C-suite. Now,
Yeah.
they're great connectors and they're really good people to know because they usually know a lot of what's happening on the ground, a lot of the sensitive information that's happening.
Yeah.
And they talk to the other executive assistants from the other C-suites and they
True.
all know each other.
Yeah.
So they're actually a really good group to connect with because they know each other, they know all the different, what's happening in the different groups, the
Yeah.
C-suite groups, and they'll usually know if there's openings coming up because they're the first to know. They're probably the ones that have to talk to HR or talk to the talent acquisition or
True.
recruiters
Yeah.
to get the jobs out there.
Yeah.
So they're a really good group to actually know. So another group are the informants, and I mean, they're usually people that you might know, but you might get information from, but they're not really probably as close, say, as an associate or an advocate, because they're usually people that might tell you things, and they're not necessarily people that you've worked with or people that, it might be a friend of a friend, for example. And so they're usually, not as close as, say, an associate or an advocate. And then you've got your weak ties, which are, I mean, I see weak ties potentially as people that you've probably met in a training group. You don't really know them that well. They don't know you that well. You just met each other. You've connected with them. Or, for example, at, say, a Christmas party or an interview party where you might, talk to someone and then you don't really know them very well, but you've met them once and you connect with them, for example, on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So again, that would be like a future contact that you might need later on in, in your career, but not necessarily, close up.
So just before you go on, Margaret, and I know we don't have this slide up, but it's this really interesting text underneath each of those that you've highlighted. So you've got the 5 relationship types, and underneath each one of them, you've actually written something. Can you just go through those? Because I think that will help embed into people's mind how powerful each one of these types of people are.
Yeah. So the first one, advocates, I mean, they will advocate for you. They will give you a referral. So they're like past managers. So they actively promote you and say, yep, I've worked with this person. I know this person and they're fantastic and I'm happy to refer them. So those people you would actually keep close to your heart, keep them warm, maybe once
High
in a while.
value. Yeah, you're saying they're
Yes,
high value.
high value.
Yeah.
And then your associates are people that you've worked with in teams and they know you, they know your insights, not necessarily they've worked with you in your team, but they might have been your customer or they might have been another group that you worked with. So because they're outside of your inner circle, they haven't actually worked with you in your team, they're probably a much bigger group because especially if you're a project manager and you're working cross-functionally, you know about all the different groups, the technology team, the marketing team, the legal team.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And even change managers. and people like that are
Absolutely.
maybe across a couple of projects.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
or they
right.
could be connectors too, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
And your connectors, which are your broad networks, they're like people that project managers are a good example, where they know a lot of people because they've worked with vendors, and this is outside the organization. They've worked with different managers within the organization. They've worked with government for or whatever for compliance or legal reasons, especially if there's different. So they have quite a few touch points from other people in other organizations, but they're not close. They're not as close. They might have dealt with you for a brief time, but they're not that close. So
when you say high leverage, you're talking about their ability to leverage information,
yes,
or even maybe to become an advocate for you because of the leverage that they personally have. That's what I found really insightful. And then the informants, decision insight. So is that they're giving you that decision, that insight into something, the informant?
So the informant would be like for someone that would actually give you information. So it might be, and and it might help you then to help you make the decision in
Make a
terms of
decision.
make a
Yep.
decision. Yeah. So
Perfect.
they give you information. It's almost
Yep.
like, I'm not saying that they're like a newspaper, but it's almost like the news, and they're telling you things. So,
Yep.
and so they'd be good because they usually are, I'd say, like a CEO or someone that pushes out information, gives information, and not necessarily where you have that close tie with them.
Yeah, but you're able to gain an insight from that. And then the other ones, you sort of talked a bit about this before, the weak ties. They may not be somebody that you need at the moment, but they could be in the future pipeline.
Yeah.
So I find that slide is really powerful. So again, if you're watching us here on YouTube, these will be on the website. And Margaret, thank you very much for doing this, putting these slides together. They're super informative. And the details will be in the description below. So what are we moving on to now? Oh, now this one's really important. The project manager as architect. Apply project thinking to every conversation. And we were talking a little bit about this before we got on here on the channel, that everybody really is the architect of their own pathway, whether or not we think about it or not. But this one and this slide, you've put it into a really neat project management framework. I think this is fantastic.
Yeah, it is. And like you said, it's the framework, which is the architecture of a project, but it applies to networking. So how cool is that?
And that's so cool. Never thought of it.
So the first one is you initiate. So you set your objective. What do you want to get out of this conversation, this coffee conversation? So, and it might be that and I had this coffee conversation with someone the other day, and they had applied for a job in an organization that I worked at.
Right.
So their objective was, and I want to give this as an example, was to get a contact from the organization that I knew from me.
Okay.
So I was the one helping this person out. I wasn't the one initiating the network conversation or the coffee conversation.
No, but they're putting you in the advocate position, are they?
Yes, they're putting me in. Well, the advocate is someone that knows you and worked with you.
So not yet. Okay.
So this person is, it's almost like, and I wasn't an associate of theirs either. I was probably more like a connector.
Right.
I was connecting her with someone that I knew from an organization that I worked at in the same department that she was applying a job at.
Right.
So the objective, so I'll just give you this as an example. The objective for her was that she had applied for a role in a marketing team. And so she wanted to know if I knew anyone in marketing. Now, I'd closely worked with a digital marketer. So she wasn't actually she was in the digital marketing, which was actually separate to the actual internal marketing team.
Right.
But I knew that this person would know the hiring manager of the marketing position, and also she knew the hiring manager and potentially the position that was going, that was being advertised.
Yeah.
So I spoke to my contact. I said to her, sure. So her objective was to connect her with someone that I knew from the organization in the role or in the area where she had for the role that she had applied for. So I said to her, sure, I'm happy to do that, connect you. So I connected her. First of all, I contacted my contact and said, are you able to help a friend that has applied for a role in marketing? And I said, I know you're in digital marketing, but are you able to talk to her and explain to her what the role is about, who the hiring manager is, and everything? She said, yeah, sure, I'm happy to talk to her. Send me her details and we'll go from there. So the objective was for this friend of mine was to connect her with someone that I knew. That was her objective.
Right.
Now, the next one is to prepare your value. Now, she was asking me for help, and in turn, she asked me whether I needed any help also.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
So,
good.
yes.
Yeah.
So she was doing that. She was actually then offering an insight referral contact help if I needed it in the event that I might need it. And so by giving her a referral and helping her and getting her in contact with someone that I knew, she then was able to offer help as well if I needed it without me even asking.
That was good.
It was good.
Yeah.
So
Look, you don't get that all the time, though.
no, I know.
In my experience.
I know, but that's the value. So that's what planning is, and basically showcase your value. So if you're asking for help, show that you can help them as well by doing that.
Yes, that's a real respect thing. So again, this slide is fantastic. And I just want to say there's 5 boxes that Margaret's got here.
Yeah.
We're not showing the slides today because it's just a little bit difficult. Initiate, this is project manager language. Plan,
Yep.
Execute, monitor, and close. And we're now up to execute.
That's right.
Fabulous. Yep.
So this is now in the example that I've just given, where we're replacing small talk. How are you? How's it going? What are you up to?
Yeah.
What have you been doing? So in the example I've got here on the slide, it's what is your biggest challenge? So if that person is actually working and you're asking them for referral, you can ask them, what is the biggest challenge in the team? Now, if that person then says, the biggest challenge in my team is that we're under-resourced. Okay, that gives you the cue that there's potentially a job that you can help. And you might say then, oh, so what do you need help with? And they might say, oh, we're needing help with, I don't know, data entry or something like that, whatever. And you might not be the right person, but you might know a grad or your son or your daughter that would want a job to help data enter some of the data entry that's required. And that's another, so that's one way of replacing small talk, but it actually is very useful. For my situation where I was talking to this friend, if she had asked me that question, I might have said, finding the right people that, may have something available for me to project manage. She might have then known someone who's on the market. She didn't at the time, but she might have said to me, I know someone that can help. I know someone that's actually looking for a project manager. And that's the cue for you to execute your position and help get some value there.
So replacing the small talk with something like, well, I'm available at the moment. I could help you with that if you'd be open to that sort of stuff. Or, but not everyone can ask those hard questions either, Margaret. I found that from sales, when I had my own company. Not everyone can ask those hard questions. And it's a very similar thing to this networking. You're doing research, you're putting together a plan of who you're going to target, you're listening, and then you're directing the conversation to a point where you get to say, so when can we start on that for you? And I literally used to say this to people. So you go through the whole thing, blah, 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 and they tell you what you need and blah, blah, blah. And I just look at them and say, when can we start that for you? We're free probably next week. I've got someone that could start the week after. And you then say nothing and look at them. And they have to come back and say stuff. And that's a sales process, really. Is closing the sale. But not everyone can do it because, look, everyone can do it. Not everyone feels comfortable. But you can learn it. It's a skill you can learn.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to monitor.
So if you're listening to the conversation and they might be saying, "Oh, we're under-resourced," that's a signal that you know that there's a gap there that you can help fill that gap, or you might know of someone that can help fill the gap.
Yep.
So that's another
listening. So it's listening. It's going back to that other slide that you were talking about before. Yeah, really important because you're gathering information too and being respectful.
And then also being able to offer help when you know or add value to the gaps that they're providing.
Yeah, I guess the worst thing is to keep rabbiting on about something that they've not talked about because you're on your own agenda instead of listening for what they say. Thinking you're going to hear project manager, you might actually hear BA. Oh, we cannot find a BA. Oh, okay. That's what you need to be listening to. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good. So that's right. Monitor. Yep.
And then closing, so agree the next step. So as you just mentioned about the sales talk, you say, and so that's an assumption that you're saying that you've got the deal already in the bag.
Yeah.
So you say, when can I start, or when can I get this person started? If it's not you, it might be someone else. Or information like, here we've got an article, or if you want an introduction to this person. And in my case, that person did want an introduction, and I was able to do that pretty much and get her talking to the other person. She thanked me profusely for it because it was a very helpful and productive conversation. She got to hear the insights of the organisation, how the team ran, the culture. So she got to understand exactly what the company was like, the culture of that team, and how they worked.
So you want to come away from that, like we as project managers do in any meeting, with an outcome or with a planned action going forward, even though it's coffee.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, okay. All right. So what to say and what not to say. Yes.
Yes.
So I love this one. Yes.
So if you're having this conversation, it's not like, have you got this job, or are you hiring? Are you hiring? Because already then they start getting defensive, because they will feel that they have to not produce something, but they feel like they might let you down by saying, oh no, I'm not hiring at the moment.
Yeah.
And instead of saying that, you could say, could I ask you a few questions about your team? And that they might say, yeah, sure. And you might say, okay, how's your team, and what's the dynamics, things like that. So you can just talk about that. And that would be one way of posing that seed, or that getting into that conversation without necessarily asking them for something.
Yeah.
And then the next one is what not to say, can you get me a job? But instead, can you help me? I am looking for a job.
Or some work or something.
Or
yeah.
some work. And do you know anyone that I could talk to? Or do you know any companies that are hiring at the moment, or that?
Right.
And, it might be a recruiter, or it might be, if you're having a coffee conversation, do you know companies that are hiring, or, things like that they could help you with. So the next one is, don't say, please forward my CV to HR. So what's the best way to apply if appropriate? Now, I have often said this because I know contacts in organisations, and I always ask them, what is the best way to apply for this role? Because sometimes they might know the hiring manager, and it's best if they get your CV and put it in front of the hiring manager themselves, rather than going through HR and through the talent acquisition team. Now, different organisations will play it differently. Some will say, no, you have to go through the proper channels because they need to be fair and equitable amongst everyone that's applied. I think a lot of government organisations might be like that, where you can't just bypass the process. You need to be considered fairly in amongst everyone that's applied for the role. So then you do have to ask, what is the best way to apply? And don't say, I'll send you my resume just in case. You can just ask, I'd love your perspective on the market, because they might say, we're going through mergers and acquisitions. We're going to be bought out next week. There's no point.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So you need to know, you need to find out, what's the market like, whether they're in a position to be hiring, whether they're up hiring or they're not. So that's a good way to find out. The next one is, don't say long life story with no clear ask.
Yes, yes.
So you have 2 to 3 short lines, a clear ask, specific request. Can you help me? I'm looking for this, and not this long-winded story that's going nowhere.
Yes, because that wouldn't last 5 minutes for somebody like me.
Yeah, and same.
Put a halt to it pretty quick. But I think most people, particularly more senior people, do expect that this is going to happen, that people will network with them. Yes. And most people are quite open, I think. Yeah. That's my experience anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So the next slide. Now, these are real life examples where a chit chat has ended up with a potential career opportunity. So a contact of mine was discussing sport and found they had a love of sport in common with this other person. And they were talking about American football and the games. So this was the chit chat that was being discussed. They found that they each were dynamic and really into sport, especially American football. A rapport was built, and they were avidly talking about players, sports, the teams, and who's good, who's not. Now, what ended up happening at the end of this chit chat and this dynamic love of sport was that it led to a conversation where one of them was saying that they knew someone that was hiring, and they connected this person that absolutely loves sport as well, that they were talking to, connected this person with the connection that was actually hiring. Now, in the end, there was a real job there, and it didn't lead to a hire, but it did lead to a lead where that conversation was actually it was actually quite fruitful for that person, because they ended up having an interview, and they didn't end up getting the job, but there was a potential hire there.
Yes, and I've actually had that when I've been talking to
Mm,
someone. They don't think you're right for that job, but hey, look. I think I know that so and so in section blah blah has got someone that needs to have somebody like you, and I've literally got that just from doing that. Um,
yeah,
so I didn't get what I was going for, but I got something else. So it can happen. So this is a really
yeah,
good example.
yeah. So another example, this happened to me. So I was at a Christmas party, and it was a member event Christmas party. So I'm a member of one of the PMI Sydney chapter
Yeah,
groups, and this was at the end of last year, and I was just basically networking, talking to people, and not necessarily having a clear goal in mind, because it was end of year, we were celebrating, and so we were getting awards and things like that. So I wasn't in the frame of mind to look to be asking or beelining someone
yeah, yeah.
for a chit chat for a job. But this person actually came towards me. It was a beeline to me. And I was just chatting to them, and I knew them. They were a member, and they said to me, "Oh, and they asked me, are you looking?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm still looking. I'm looking for the right position." And then they said to me, "Well, my company is actually hiring at the beginning of next year."
Right.
So from that conversation, and it was very unexpected, and I was just saying hello. It wasn't and I was being really nice to say hello, and being friendly to this person. And out of that conversation, friendly conversation, I got a lead. Now what I did with that lead was I followed him up in the new year,
Yeah,
and he said, "Oh, people are still on holidays, we're not
yeah,
ready yet." And then I think it was, a few weeks later, he sent me the link directly and said, "You do need to apply." This is what I was saying
right.
about some organizations do want you
Yes,
to apply through the
yes.
proper protocol. And he said, "You do need to apply." And he said, "This is the link, it's just gone out." So he was very kind enough to brief me on the link,
Mm,
let me know, and give me the opportunity to apply quite early in the process. Now, I didn't end up getting the role, but nevertheless, I was given that opportunity to basically apply early and get my foot in the door in the event that
yeah,
that was a suitable position for me.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's perfect. So I think what I get from all of that is, this is a fantastic skill to have, to
yes,
understand what networking's about and what your process is. Margaret suggested one here, which is great for project managers, um, and to always be aware and to probably practice. Margaret, would you
yeah,
say practice the networking skill? And
yes,
then does it become like second nature, do you think then?
yes. I mean, I had a networking event recently as well, where I knew I had to go and ask someone about a role they had advertised. Now, after having read about the job, I knew that a lot of the things I didn't actually meet.
Right.
So I knew that potentially I may not be the right person, but I wanted to find out more about the role to see who they were really looking for. Now, this person made a beeline to me, and it was at an event, and I didn't say, you know, "I want to apply for this job that you've advertised."
Right.
I first said to them, "What do you think of the event? How do are you getting anything out of it? What do you is it useful for you?" And then I just asked her, I said, "Oh, I recently saw a role. I wasn't really sure whether I was right for it, but I just wanted to get a sense of, what type of person you're looking for."
Yeah, yeah,
And she mentioned to me that it was someone in the pharmaceuticals industry. Now, I've never worked in pharmaceuticals, and she said that that's a
yeah,
must-have for her client. So I knew
right.
then that I had asked the question, and to get a sense of, fulfillment, that I knew that I'd found out exactly, who she was
Yeah,
looking for. I did get that answer from her, and I thought, okay,
Yeah,
that's fine. At least I've explored the option that whether I was
exactly.
a potential candidate or not.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Now, I love this one as well. Your weekly networking action plan. Project manager's going to love this one as well, Margaret.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah,
take us through this one? This is
yeah.
great.
So this is like 3 conversations you have this week, and quality over quantity, purposeful, prepared, followed up, and it could be anyone. I mean, it could be anything. It could be family, it could be friends. It could be like once a month I have a luncheon with some old retired people. It could be that.
Right.
And you never know. Like I've had conversations with these retired people and they ask me, what do you do? And then I'll say, well, I'm looking for work. And they might say, oh, my son or my daughter works in Westfields, or
Yeah.
they work in, this hotel group, and they're
Yeah.
actually looking for someone, or they might know someone that's looking. So you never know where that conversation may lead. Uh, so messages or follow-ups, so you can use LinkedIn or email. Now, this is really interesting because there is a potential update on LinkedIn where you have a section where it says where you can actually remind it reminds you that there's a new event that's happened. For example, a birthday that's happened, or they've changed their
Right.
jobs, or they've got a new education certificate. Now, every day I go through those, and if they've had a new education certificate or a new job change, or they've been in their job for 10 years, 20 years, 3 years, 1 year,
Yeah. Yeah.
LinkedIn gives you a prompt automatically to say, congratulations on having
True.
achieved this certificate.
Yeah.
Now, I do that
Yeah.
every day. I go through and I just go enter, 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 and I'm sending all these messages. Happy anniversary. Congratulations on your new job. Oh, congratulations on receiving a new certificate. Or, happy birthday. Now, out of the blue, all of them come back to me and say, thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for that. What
Yeah.
are you up to? Hi, what are you up to?
Yeah.
Now
Because you're
that is
now
the
front of mind.
now I'm
Yes.
front of mind. Now that is the
Yes.
opportunity for you
Yeah.
to reply back and say, hey, I'm, currently on the market looking for work and I'm doing
Yeah.
this. And that is your opportunity to answer that question in that way. And then you say, and how
Yeah.
are you?
Yeah. Good
So
idea. And it
yeah,
doesn't take very long, does it?
it
Minutes,
doesn't. And
really.
it's worth
Minutes.
it's worth its weight in gold, I can tell you now.
Mm. And this little star that you've got here to remember,
Mm,
most jobs are never advertised. And we know
yes.
that. That's a thing.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to network. Ask for
Mm,
insights, not jobs, which is what you've said in the previous slides. Always close with the next step, which we've talked about.
mm,
Follow up within 5 to 7 days, Margaret.
mm,
So even for the coffee meeting, there's a follow up.
mm. That's right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And when you're going to do the follow up, what do you typically follow up? How do you do that?
So I'll just give you an example with that person that contacted me and said,
Yeah.
I wanted. So what I did was I contacted the marketing person, and then I told her, my friend, about this
Yeah.
marketing person. And then a few days later, I asked her whether she had spoken to her, and she said no, she hadn't done it yet. But then when she did, she came back to me. So she followed up. She came back to me and said, that contact was absolutely fantastic. I got
Right.
so much value out of it. She got to find out about the culture, the team,
Oh,
the
right. Wow.
dynamics. She got
Okay.
to find out the
Yeah.
hiring manager. So she got a lot of
Yeah.
information from it. So she did the follow-up and it was fantastic.
Mm.
And that
Okay.
that Christmas party conversation I did the follow-up in the next, because it was over Christmas. I waited until a few weeks in the new year, and then I followed up, but it was still too early because people were still on holidays.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, okay.
So,
and now keep advocates warm, update them regularly. And I often do this through LinkedIn, but I also do it through all different mechanisms. So these are the front foot of your networking, aren't they? They're the real people that you want to keep close to. And every casual chat is a potential door, which you've sort of given us a couple of those examples. So if we can just sort of summarise now and start to finish this conversation, the coffee chat is not the networking. What you do before and after is. Fantastic. Margaret, can you take us through this one? Because this is really important, isn't it?
Yeah. So you have an intention in mind, what you want to get out of this conversation. You have that intent and know what your objective is, right?
Yeah.
You lead, and then that's the first step. The second step is you lead with value, give before you ask. Now, what this friend of mine did, she actually offered how could she help me?
Right.
So that is an example of that by giving before you ask.
So that's not somebody saying, I'm fantastic and I can do all of these things.
Yes.
No, it's a different
like,
thing.
how can I help you with what you need?
Yes. Okay.
So you replace small talk. This is the next step. Replace small talk with the strategic questions. So it might be, how's your team? What, and they might say, oh, we're under-resourced. And you might say, so you replace the small talk with strategic questions. Oh, what sort of under-resourced are you? What sort of under-resourced are you?
Yeah.
Is it, admin? Is it a BA? Is it a project manager? Or is it technology person or marketing? So you're asking strategic questions because you're trying to find out what value you can bring to help them.
Yeah. You're honing down the scope, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're honing it down, which project managers should be good at asking these questions.
Yeah. And then always ask for a next step before you leave. So, for example, my friend asked me to connect her with someone that I knew. So that's the next step. So that's good. And if I had asked her for something that she was able to give me, it might have been a contact or it might have been, an organization that she knew. So then she would give me that information. And then follow up, make sure that, and you follow up, you keep these relationships warm because, hey, this time it may not have worked out, but who knows? Next time it might be the right thing, and you just never know.
No, people have long memories, I've found, and they might be looking for somebody and doing stuff. I mean, I once hired a test manager on a project that I was managing. It was a large project, and I hadn't worked with him for 10 years maybe. And I had a test manager who I think I sacked, was not good. And then I got this other person in that I had worked with before. And, it was fantastic because then we had a team that I knew was going to function well, and it did function well. So people have long-term memories, and it's not just if you've worked with them, it's if you've somehow stood out in their mind. So you have, initiate, plan, execute, monitor, close. You've got that clear framework in your mind by the sounds of things. You're adding value. You're being curious. And when you're networking, it's not always all about you.
That's right.
I know, when we did the sales stuff, you're listening to what are your pain points as the client? What do you experience as pain? Sometimes you can't help them that day and it's just coffee. Sure, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But you still go in there with an intent, which is what you talked about. So that's fantastic, Margaret. Thank you so much for putting that together.
That's okay, Susanne. It was my pleasure. I loved it.
It's good, isn't it? And look, for anyone watching today, these are my new T-shirts, which is Project Management is my superpower. They will be for sale on the website soon. And there is another one that says Play More Golf. If any of you watch my channel and I talk about playing more golf, relax, reflect, rewind, very good for project managers. So thanks again, Margaret.
You're welcome. Thoroughly
And
enjoy
for
this
everyone,
topic.
it was really good. And I think there's another session in this. So for everyone out there, please subscribe to the channel, watch on the website and to see what's going on. And hopefully Margaret and I will be back again soon. Have a great project day.